Mechanics liens. Mechanics liens used to be the hardest part for me. I don't know why I was so confused on mechanics liens, but mechanics liens, I personally think they should be called contractors liens, because a mechanics lien is when somebody does not pay their contractor, and when they don't pay their contractor, the contractor has the right to go ahead and lien it against the property. Now, there's two ways you can get a mechanics lien. Number one, the way I just described, and number two, if you do not pay for your building materials. So those are the two ways that you can have a mechanics lien. Going on to the top of page 31. So the confusing part about the mechanics liens is that they can take priority earlier than they're recorded. What that means is, let's say that you started construction on something and you were doing it on brand new construction. With brand new construction, it goes to the beginning of construction. For instance, my son was working on a house I believe that house took 5 years. But it's like really big. It's 9,000 square feet and it's in Beverlywood, and it's a really awesome house. And so they started it, and during the 5-year period, anybody that worked on that property, if they didn't get paid, they could go ahead and lien it with a mechanics lien and go all the way back to the beginning of construction. But the reason it's confusing is the mechanics liens is that they take priority earlier than they record them. So what that means is, let's say that, they finished the house 5 years later, and then the flooring contractor realizes that, oh, they're not going to pay me because I was the last guy. His lien goes all the way back to the beginning of construction. Okay. So they take priority over things that had been done throughout the time of the construction. The main reason mechanics liens can take priority is because the contractor doesn't know the homeowner's not going to pay him. The lien takes effect at the beginning of construction on new houses, even ahead of intervening liens. So an intervening lien is maybe possibly an equity line of credit or some type of construction loan that somebody takes out while they're building the property. Okay. So on older homes, when you're having somebody come over and take care of your home, like maybe you're changing out your floors or you're having a painter come and work on your property, that goes to the beginning of their contract, because again, they didn't know you weren't going to pay them. Now, the hardest part that I see people mess up the question that people mess up on the mechanics liens is which lien has to be verified and recorded. And it's super simple. It's the mechanics lien. So what they mean by verified and recorded is the contractor has to go in there to the county recorder's office, show them the contract and the date the contract was done, and he has to say it under penalty of perjury. Okay? So once you see that one, you'll be able to get that right. A homeowner with a mechanics lien who never hired a contractor, now let's say he did a do-it-yourself project. So on your California state exam, it says that you never hired a contractor. How could you have a construction lien? Well, a mechanics lien is what they call it. And the answer is they didn't pay for the materials. Okay. The next part about the mechanics liens is you do have to know these time frames. So what I want you to do on the highlighting part is highlight on mechanics liens, verified and recorded, and circle that, and then highlight penalty of perjury. On the homeowner that had the mechanics lien that never hired the contractor, go ahead and highlight non-payment to the supplier and highlight and circle supplier for the materials. Now the time frame for the mechanics liens. I want you to highlight it this way, because the way it reads is 60 days to record the lien if notice of completion is recorded. You're going to highlight 60 days, notice of completion, recorded. What that means is the homeowner at the end of construction went to the county recorder's office and said, okay, I'm done. This is our notice of completion. And that's giving public notice to everybody that worked on the property that they have 60 days now to file their mechanics liens. If they go past 60 days, then they don't get to file their mechanics lien, and they may not get paid. Then on the next time frame, highlight 90 days, notice of completion not recorded, highlight not recorded and circle not. So if the homeowner does not record the mechanics lien, the contractors get an extra 30 days because they had no knowledge of the mechanics, they had no knowledge of the notice of completion. Construction loan funds. On the state exam, and I'm going to keep this because it has to do with mechanics and contractors and stuff. So a construction loan. What basically happens when you get a construction loan, for the purpose of the test, because my son's a contractor. I'm like, is this how it's done? And he's like, no. I'm like, well, this is how they teach it from the 1970s and in the principles book. And he's like, well, that's not how it really goes, but I have to teach it the way it's on the state exam. So here goes. All right. So you show an appraiser your specifications, what you're going to build, your building plans. And you show them the property and you say, okay, I'm going to build this house on that property. And the appraiser says, if you're going to build this house on that property, it's going to be worth $1 million. So then the construction loan, let's say they're going to give you 80%. Well, the lender's not going to give you a full 80%. They're not going to give you $800,000 and say, go for it, build the house. The reason they're not going to say, go for it, build a house is because history dictates what happens in the present. And a lot of times people would get all the money at once and they'd go ahead and spend the money and they'd only get 80% done. And then the bank would be stuck with a house that's not finished. So what they do is they release the funds in what we call obligatory advances. It may be 4, it may be 6, whatever it is, it's going to be in your contract. So what they're going to do is, let's say they're going to do 5 releases. So they're going to come out to the property, see what you're doing, and give you 20% of the money. And then you're going to do some work, and they're going to come back out, and they're going to say, okay, 20% is done. We'll give you another 20% of the money. And they do that until the very end. One of the questions on your state exam says, when do they release the last part of the money? And the construction funds are released, highlight after the lien period to pay the contractors is finished. So that's the 60 or the 90 days. Which I think is kind of crazy, because what if I need that money to pay them?